Hello, I'm Tom Bailey, and in today's Speaker Stories episode, I'll be getting to know Elaine Powell, who is an award-winning professional speaker, peak performance, and public speaking coach. So, Elaine, hello, and a very warm welcome to today's episode.
Oh, hello, Tom. Hello, the listener. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to jump into our conversation.
Thank you so much for being here, and I can detect an accent. Whereabouts in the world are you right now?
More or less northwest London, around the Hampstead area. So nice part of London.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I also know that you were a former TEDx curator. You've personally spoken at over 200 events and have trained over 30,000 speakers. So I guess to begin with, I really wanted to find out, what is it about the speaking industry that really lights you up and keeps you coming back time and time again?
How long do we have,
I know,
Tom?
right?
There's just so much that I've got out of my own speaking journey. Um, I was working with young offenders and I loved working in that industry. But, at some point in our life, something says it's not enough. You need something different. So I went off traveling around the world, came back and I thought, what do I want to do? How am I going to be fulfilled? And something just kept on coming up for me about my childhood around self-expression. My self-expression had been stunted as a child through various, mums telling you to be quiet, not to talk. And I think it's one of those things that life gives you what you need, not always what you wanted. And I never really realized that my self-expression had been just quashed as I grew up. And I wasn't sharing, especially in groups, what I thought, my feelings. So it's like life pushed me into the world of public speaking. It wasn't something that I thought, yes, I want to be a speaker.
Yeah.
But, life has a way of just pushing us. And I started in Toastmasters.
Great. Excellent.
And for anyone listening who doesn't know Toastmasters, it's an amateur speaking club that you can go into your local area, and they're really supporting you as a speaker. And I started winning competitions and really loved how in the process of speaking, we know that from speaking, you gain the things, visibility, credibility, authority, but the confidence and the self-belief in validating what you have to say and people receiving it and going, oh my God, that was amazing, or you really helped me. It's just priceless.
I can really resonate with that. That is my story, really. I became an expert at avoiding public speaking for about the first 25, 30 years of my life. Introverted. I was always the shy kid in school. I kept quiet. So yeah, I can really resonate with that. And I guess that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about now is removing that obstacle and actually, setting my voice free. So I think, yeah, that's kind of very much in line with what you just said. So I want to go back to the early days for you then. So when you first realized that, I can share what I have to say, and, I can have a little bit of the spotlight here. What was it like? Were you a nervous speaker, or did you find it quite comfortable when you got started?
I think because, I don't know if it's because I'm the last child, when you have like the baby of the bunch, we run around, we're like wild. I think I've always been in the performance space.
Yeah.
As a child, my mum took us to theatre, acting and dancing, and I was like just running around having a great time. And I've played the guitar, I've sang in some groups. So I think I was okay about being in front of people, but it's only when you actually step into the world of speaking, you're like, oh, now I have to be really clear with my communication. It's very different to performing something versus being yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember my first Toastmaster speech. They count your ums and ers.
Yeah.
Were you ever in Toastmasters?
Similar public speaking club. Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah. And I remember my first 5 minutes icebreaker, they counted 53 ums and
Wow.
ers.
Yeah.
Which now, as an experienced speaker and coach, I know that person's very nervous. they're speaking way too fast. They're not using any pauses, and they potentially just want to get it over and done with.
Yeah.
And so they gave me some great tips. And then my second time around, I got it down to 5.
Great.
So, it's just been an incredible journey, being in the world of speaking.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that. And I guess going back then again, what would you say to a young Elaine right now if you were going to live your speaking career again? And what piece of advice would you give to her to set her off on the right foot for this journey?
Oh, that's such a great question. I know I've had that many times in Clubhouse, because I'm in
Yeah.
a Clubhouse platform speaking on speaking. Oh, I think it's the same thing I would say to people in business as
Mhm.
well, that speaking and business is all about service.
Yeah.
It's actually not about you. And I think if I knew that when I was, many, many years ago, I wouldn't have been so fixated on what if I make a mistake, and what if I get it wrong, and all the things that come up in my head or come up in our head about ourselves.
Mhm.
Well, actually, as a speaker, we know that the audience doesn't really care. They care about what's in it for them, what's in it for them, what's in it for them.
Yeah.
So I think the same with speaking, the same with business. Service to many leads to greatness. Help enough people to get what they want, and you'll get what you want in return. So if I was to go back and talk to my younger self, it would be just keep on focusing on giving value, making a
Mhm.
difference to the person listening, because in that listening, you forget about your own
Yeah.
self.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Taking the spotlight off yourself really and putting it on the
Yes.
audience, what they can get. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that. And I also want to talk about TEDx because I know that we said in your bio that you were a TEDx curator, I think for a few years.
Mhm.
Um, I'm just interested, like, why is TEDx almost a mark of credibility or something that speakers aspire to? What is it about TEDx, do you think?
I think because it's been around for a long time,
Mm.
since 1984. And I think how it started, which was a conference, Silicon Valley, for all the thinkers and doers in the tech space. It was a time of Facebook, Google. So already they were having industry experts speak on ideas worth spreading.
Yeah.
And obviously, people couldn't afford to go there, so they created the TEDx, which
Mhm.
is local ones that can happen in your community of whichever country you live in. And I think it's also that supply and demand, because it's not that easy to
Yeah.
get accepted
Mhm.
to speak. There's more demand than there is a supply, because if you think of the larger, more established TEDx events, they potentially have 1 to 300 applications for
Wow.
only 12 to 15 speaker slots.
Yeah. Mhm.
And there is something when you say I'm a TEDx speaker, that people they start paying attention, because especially the people that understand, you have to go through the eye of the needle in order to not only come up with an idea worth spreading, that people, it's a difference between someone going, meh, it's an okay idea, to oh wow,
Yeah.
what can I do with
Thought
this?
provoking. Mm.
Yeah, and then you have to go through the process of being able to articulate it, create a messaging around it that has a curator go, oh yeah, let's get this person in for either an interview. Then you also have to craft the talk.
Yeah.
It's actually much easier to talk for an hour than it is to talk for 18 minutes or less.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And just to jump in there, so this idea worth spreading. If somebody wants to become a TEDx speaker, but they don't really know what idea to go with, what piece of advice would you give to them? How do they find that idea?
Giving all my jewels away here,
Oh, we
Tom.
can't do that.
No, I'm only joking. I say it's like peeling back a layer of an onion.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will come up with the idea, but usually it's something you've been living through. You want to see that, in my opinion, so obviously just my humble opinion, the people who do really well in TED and TEDx, is because they're speaking on an area that they're an expert in.
Yeah.
They haven't had to just go, oh, I want to talk about this. And they, you know, when we dive deeper, when we start crafting the talk, they don't have research, they don't have stories, they don't have, you know, facts and statistics, because they haven't lived it. So first of all, find something that you're an expert in, or the other one is an experience, because there's a lot of people who've gone through something, whether it's an illness or, you know, I don't know, running 7 marathons in 7 days, or wherever it might be, because then the idea can come out of that. The challenge you'll find is that many people will feel, because they have a story, now they can go and do a TEDx talk. Well, I just want to say, it's not TED stories worth spreading, it's TED ideas worth spreading.
Yeah.
So yes, you can have a story, and we all have stories, but what is the idea?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
What we need.
And I guess, you know, I've watched lots of TEDx and TED Talks, and it always makes you think something different by the end of it, or you know, you have a different bit of inspiration, or it's been thought provoking. So that's I guess what you're looking for really in terms of that idea as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we always say at the end, you want people to do one of 3 things, or all 3. You want them to think a certain way, do certain actions, or feel a certain way. Think, do, or feel. Do all of them, or just at least do one of them.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. Excellent. And I guess next question is, somebody starting from scratch and blank canvas, and they're aspiring to be a TEDx speaker. What's the kind of lead time somebody should expect to take? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 6 months? How much time do you need to go from 0 to on stage at TEDx?
You're asking all these hard questions, like to quantify time. It's really difficult, because, you know, people are doing so many things in their life. I'll tell you what I've experienced. The quickest I've had is to work with someone, and within 10 days we came up with the idea, we articulated it, we applied, and they got accepted.
Love that. Yeah.
Then they delivered it within 3 months. That is pretty quick.
Sounds quick. Yeah.
Because I'd say on average, it depends on how long somebody's been thinking about this idea, but I'd say on average between 3 and 6 months, because you've got to work on the idea, you've got to work on, sometimes it's just space, you need that thinking space. And then you have to, sometimes they actually want you to write the talk for the applications, and that takes time. And then you have to wait for the speaker window applications to open, and unless you've got a big database, you don't always know when their applications are open. And then they maybe have a month or 6-week process where they go through the applications.
Yeah, perfect. That's been really useful, thank you. I guess just moving away from TEDx just for a second, so we've talked about the early days for you, you know, at Toastmasters. We've talked about your journey. What I was interested in now is what's next. So we've just been through a global pandemic, speaking industry shut down basically for a couple of years. So what's next for you? What's next for the industry, would you say?
Yeah, so people want to get out. They want to be with other people again.
Yeah.
You know, where I think virtual is here to stay.
Yeah.
Because people have seen that we've coped very well during the pandemic, and there are times that you can't gather everybody together at a conference. It costs a lot, time, all of that travel. In person are definitely coming back again. Hybrid, I'm sure hybrid is still there. And for people who don't know hybrid, it's virtual. And so if I'm presenting in a live room, I'll also have a camera to look to, and there's people virtual. I think sometimes people don't like the hybrid as much, because it is challenging to engage a live audience and the audience on Zoom as well, so that they both have the same, because it is all about experience. You are creating an experience for them. So, you know, I think we're now going into a new phase of those 3, virtual, hybrid, and in person. For myself, I definitely want to do a lot more speaking in the USA. So just working on the visas
Yeah, of course.
and all the things that have to happen, to make sure that you're always doing it the correct way. And for me, just spreading my subject matters, which I speak on transformational thinking, and obviously how to communicate with impact. They're the two, and peak performance. They're the areas that I love speaking on. So I'm doing that and just running my year-long programs to get people out there speaking.
Excellent. And I guess that's led us nicely onto the final topic I wanted to talk about, which was the business side of speaking. So a lot of aspiring speakers come into the world and maybe they're giving free talks to begin with. That's not sustainable. So at some point, they need to transition into paid speaking or revenue generating speaking. What advice would you give to somebody who's looking to turn, I'm a free speaker, to I'm now in the business of speaking?
Yeah, so I think it's like same with your business. What is your target market?
Yeah.
And who are you speaking to, and who's willing to pay that type of money? From 3 to 5 up 10. There are organizations that can't afford that. So is that your target market? Then that's fine, but be aware that your payment will be capped.
Yeah.
Non-profits can only pay so much, government can only pay so much, small business owners. When you're jumping into the more corporate space, C-suite, that's where you can do, the bigger conferences. That's when you can do the 5, 7, 10, 15 going up. So for those, I'd say, I got this, I think it was from Nigel Reiser. It's the 3 Fs. At times you are going to speak for free.
Yeah.
Even if you get paid 10,000, there will be times you speak free because it's in front of your ideal clients.
Yeah.
And there's something coming on the back end. Maybe there's programs that you can deliver or workshops. Then there's the fee. Now, how do you go from free to fee? You just ask. And you'd be so surprised how I started at 500, went up to 1,000, went up to 2,000. I just kept on raising it, and I wasn't attached to the person saying yes or no.
Yeah, I get that.
And then there's the last one. So there's free, there's a fee, you ask for it. And then if they say no, you negotiate or you have conversations, but always have those conversations in person. Don't do them via email. It just doesn't work when you're talking about pricing. And it's all about value. What value can you give? And the last one is flee, run away. It's not your target audience. It's not worth your time. They're not in line with your values, who you are. Then so I like the 3 Fs.
I love that. I had Nigel on the podcast not long ago, actually.
He's a rebel. I love Nigel.
Yeah, he's awesome. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. That's been amazing to hear. I guess the last question for me today is, if somebody wants to find out more about you, work with you, book you as a speaker, where should they go?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our conversation, having to make me work hard with some of these questions. 2 places that you want to book me as a speaker, just go to elainepowell.com and you can contact me there. If you're interested in working with me, either to get you on the TEDx stage or to get you out speaking and getting paid speaking, then just go to my Mind Speak, one word, Mind Speak Academy, and you'll find free resources that you can download and contact me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll post all of those links into the show notes as well, so people can click on those and find out more. But Elaine, all that's left to say really is thank you so much for your time, sharing such great value with me and with our audience.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Tom.